ready to start. Shall I start?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear brothers and sisters, this is our third week with the name Ever Living. Hi. So this week, again, we have Colin Turner from UK and Tolga Aslan from Turkey, our beloved guests, and we will hopefully go over the name Hayy from the text that we just left off. So just to remember, we had started, from the first part, which was about the definition of life, and we had 29 definitions, and we had mentioned all of these definitions require elaboration in its own right. Even maybe we can have many PhD dissertations in each of the definitions. That's something for the future, obviously. But then after the first part, in the second week, we started with the second sign, which was taking just one of the definitions from the first sign. So we talked about that. So it was relating the causes with life, and it was very fruitful. We elaborated on causes because everything is veiled with causes in this life. So it was our main topic. After that, we just start with the third sign this week. And third sign also will be a definition from the first part, one of the 29 definitions on life. So to start, it was said in the 29th property of life that just as the result of the universe is life, so are thanks and worship the result of life and the cause and ultimate reason for the universe's creation and its desired result. Yes, the universe's ever-living self-subsistent maker certainly wants thanks from living creatures in return for his making himself known and loved through so many sorts of bounties, and he wants their praise and laudation in return for his precious arts and for his creatures to respond with worship and obedience to his dominical commands. In accordance with this mystery of dominicality, rububiyya, it is because thanks and worship are the most important purpose of every sort of life and therefore of the whole universe, that the Quran of miraculous exposition, Quran-ı Mucizül Beyan, urges thanks and worship with fervor, intensity, and sweetness. It states repeatedly that worship is for God alone, thanks is due only to him, and praise is particular to him. Yeah, I think I'm going to stop here to just make an opening. And can I ask Colin Hocam to you for the opening? This looks like very important topic. It just relates this name Hayy, ever living, to the result of thanks, shukr. So can we just elaborate how the mindset, just maybe Said Nursi's mindset, brings us to the topic of thanks, and how is it important, how we can see the result of life is thanks, shortly. Colin Hocam?
Sorry, I was muted and I
oh, that's good. I thought I lost you.
No. If life is, as Ustad says, the light and the purest essence of the cosmos, then it follows on that I think one of its key purposes must be the elicitation of thanks and praise and worship, because they're all demanded anyway by God, by his very existence. They're needed, more importantly, they're needed by the creation and humankind. We need worship worship is part of our birthright. We are born bowing down to him, and our whole of our life is geared towards a conscious submission on all of the names that we find in ourselves. The worship really is our creational. It's a creational obligation, and it's also a need. We need to worship. We need to give of ourselves. We need to lose ourselves in the other. We need to praise. It's part of who we are and what we are. And also to appreciate. To appreciate is to acknowledge names, the divine names, and to glory in them, in a sense. To, can I say, to, the word I'm looking for and I can't find it, is to exult in them, really, is to wrap ourselves in them, is to digest them, in a sense, is to internalize them. Because the names are everywhere and we respond to the names. So we have to cultivate in ourselves conscious thanks, conscious praise, and conscious worship. Because all of these three things that he's mentioned, thanks, praise, and worship, are things which happen anyway in us by default. Whether we want to or not, whether we recognize it or not, we do praise, we do worship, and we are thankful, we are grateful.
Is it the address? I mean, is it possible for a human being not to praise or give thanks to something else, even if he doesn't recognize?
Possible. It's not possible. We can sort of consciously try to withhold all of these things, but in actual fact, can never escape. As we said last week or the week before, we run from God to God. So even if we are trying deliberately to avoid God, you can't avoid. It's impossible to avoid. So thanks, praise, and worship can on the surface be avoided, but in actual fact, they are always given. Of course, the key is for them to be given consciously. So life is, we said, the light of the cosmos, and it makes known to us a whole array of divine names, which are the source of all bounties, including life itself. But what you could say then is that life exists in order to reveal itself, and to show us that without life, the rest of the concomitants of life, in other words, the rest of these countless names and attributes, would all be unknowable. It's a bit like light. Life is a bit like light. Without life, then nothing is knowable. God would remain unknowable. So the names and God himself would remain unknowable. And here, Nursi revisits the notion of attributes or qualities that come without a veil, come from him directly. So true worship and conscious worship is, as far as I see it, acknowledgement or recognition of the fact that these bounties are coming from him directly. Even if we see apparent intermediaries, proximate causes acting as occasions the appearance of these bounties, Nursi's contention was that life, which is the greatest of all bounties, comes without a veil and is thus attributable directly to God. Now he takes a kind of step further. He reiterates that that in order for humankind's worship, thanks and laudation, in order for these to be truly worthy of humankind's rank as the vicegerent, we have to try to see all things which are a means of thanks coming from him directly, despite the existence of apparent intermediaries. That is the true worship, that is the true gratitude, is to see all things coming from him directly, without intermediary. Because life, which makes everything knowable, is coming from him directly. So if there are veils or if there are no veils, there is a brute fact. The brute fact is that things come from God directly. And thus everything is attributable to him without intermediary. You know, veils, after all, are just that. They're just there to veil the divine hand of power. That's all.
Yeah, beautiful. Sally, do you want to just add some stuff? Also, I want to include the concept traditional or how do you say, Şükrü Örfi concept in Risale-i Nur, traditional, or let's say, how to translate, how this is translated, I don't remember, but Nursi explains one way for, şükür, thanks is immediately within us. I mean, an organ, a member of the body works perfectly, means it praises, it thanks to the creator. Like engineer, maybe Tolga or Salih, you want to talk about this aspect. Something manufactured just works in a way it is designed. That means the product actually praises the maker. So in this analogy, similarly, all creation just acts in a way they are created. And this is by default thanks, by one of the explanations of Nursi. Do you want to make use of this concept as well, and to relate other stuff as well in this text particularly?
Okay, assalamu alaikum, first of all. That's a very interesting perspective looked at this point, and it makes a lot of sense because at the end of the day, we the humans are poor and have very narrow view that we look to the universe, and we often miss many of the details. So in that respect, Allah setting up some mechanisms inside which will willingly make their job, in this case, offering shukran, like hamd and shukr to Allah, makes a lot of sense because it is in some sense no different than our heart beating itself or our eyes blinking without we ever noticing. So having such a mechanism that is built in our very nature makes our job also very easy because if we were left with on our own and we were supposed to, fulfill our duties just with the faculties such as consciousness, heart, and our spirit, which have some sort of consciousness, and we have a share in guiding them, directing them to their purposes, then we would end up in a big trouble. And even in this case, even though Allah is giving us many things are automated, but even in this case we are having so much difficulty. I don't know if this addresses your concern, but
yeah, wonderful. It's just to open, it's always wonder, at this point, how Said Nursi just brings at the third sign, the result of life is worship. So this is a very strong argument. And in fact, it is, as Colin Hocam said, maybe it's a matter of internalization. So by the default setting, we are giving thanks. My cells, my trillions of cells, atoms, billions of atoms are giving thanks by their tongue of disposition. But it's my maybe conception to offer thanks consciously or not at this point, or to address to the creator in my praise, or addressing my ego or something else. It's going to be addressed anyway.
So the creation is set up in this way, and also there is almost no other path that makes sense in this universe, because think it this way. I'm just going to give a metaphor, just a simple example. Say, for example, when you ask me where I am, I would say I'm in Kastamonu. Then you would ask, where is Kastamonu? It is in Turkey. It is in Anatolia. It is in the middle of Europe, Asia, Africa. Or I would simply give you some coordinates. And then if you raise your gaze a little bit higher, then the next question would be, where is this place called Earth? It is in the it is in the solar system. Then you might ask, if you really wonder, where is solar system located? It's in the Milky Way, I would say. And this would go on like this. And Ustad is mentioning such a way of thinking in, I guess, Sunuhat, lazım, the requisite of a thing, of whatever thing you're considering, is usually questioned automatically, the requisite. But the requisite of requisite is very rarely questioned. And in this case, Ustad is, I guess, laying down a framework of thinking in this respect. So Ustad is saying that one of the greatest, or maybe the greatest, the result of this universe is life. And many people, including like myself and many philosophers, think that this is the ultimate goal, like period. So the requisite of this creation is life, but then what is the requisite uh, for having life in this universe? I started saying, because the creator of all of these wants something back in return for the life he bestows upon creation, and it is hamd and shukr. So in the example you asked me where I am in Kastamonu, and it's in Turkey. It's in Earth. It's in Milky Way, solar system, Milky Way. It goes on like this. So if you question the creation and the existence in the same manner, then these questions are going to converge to one and only one thing, and it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you find why, if you find that Allah is the very source of all of these, and if you confirm this, if you admit this, then the next step in contemplating on all of these issues is going to be within the spheres of names, Asma al-Husna, and then Awsaf Ilahiyya, like Sifat Ilahiyya. So in this particular case, I think we all understand that the greatest results of this universe is life. And then since the giver of life is Allah, so then we start thinking about Ismi Hayy, among many names of Allah. So I guess this is the way of contemplating on all of these. We have to ask, what is the source of this? What is the source of this? And all of these questions are going to end up in one single place spot. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is, I guess, the framework that we should be comfortable with.
Yeah, thanks for drawing this framework for us. I see a chat entry from Errol Tahtakran. I think it's elaborating on thanks. It's an excerpt from 28th letter. Furthermore, the exquisitely adorned forms, the fragrant smells, the wonderfully delicious tastes in the bounties which are sustenance invite thanks. They awake an eagerness in animate beings, and through eagerness urge a sort of appreciation and respect, and prompt thanks of a sort. And thanks for sharing this. Colin Hocam, do you want to add anything else on this point before we move on?
Only that it's very difficult actually to articulate what thanks are, what gratitude is. We get a feeling of, I think, fullness when something happens which addresses certain unspoken need in us. When someone does something nice, it gives you a feeling that you, in a sense, you matter, and we all want to matter to someone or to something. We want to be appreciated ourselves. We want to be loved. And I think that when we receive a bounty, it is a sign of love. And we're receiving bounties from the Creator all the time. And that is a sign of his unconditional love. And I think because this love allows us to, in a sense, and the word I was looking for before is to luxuriate. It allows us to luxuriate in all of the divine names, to see ourselves as being bathed in them and losing ourselves in all of these wonderful expressions of perfection come with bestowal. When God bestows something, it is awe-inspiring. It is awesome to think that something has been given to you by your Creator. He loves you so much to give you this unconditionally. It inspires in us these feelings of I'm trying to articulate appreciation. What exactly does it comprise. And it's very difficult. This is why with Ustad here, if you see that Errol's quote, it's very interesting. It says, exquisitely adorned forms, the fragrant smells, the wonderful, delicious tastes, all of these are describing the bounties which are sustenance, which are rizq.
Right.
And they awake eagerness. They make us eager, make us anticipate, and that makes us happy. And happiness brings about this feeling of we are wanted and we are loved. And he says a sort of appreciation and respect and prompt thanks of a sort. Ibn Ustad here is, I think, is expressing the difficulty that there is in articulating what these things are. He's using a sort of. That's what I'm getting from this. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very interesting, very insightful and mystical.
Errol actually has followed up with another short quote, which is amazing. State of delight, shukr, state of delight and pleasure derived from blessings. He's nailed it. That's perfect.
Right, very nice definition, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Errol.
Certainly. Maybe we can move a little bit. So to state that thanks and praise should go directly to its true owner, verses like, it is he who gives life and death, and to him is due the alternation of night and day. It is he who gives life and death, and when he decides upon an affair, he says to it, be, and it is, and gives life to the earth after its death. So all these verses point out that he holds life together with all its attributes without veil in the grasp of his power, and they reject intermediaries explicitly and ascribe life directly to the ever-living and self-subsistent one's hand of power, restricting it to him. The verses, for God is he who gives all sustenance, Lord of power, steadfast forever, and when I am ill, it is he who cures me. Another verse, he is the one that sends down rain even after men have given up all hope. These verses show that things which provoke thanks, such as sustenance, healing, and rain, which also invite gratitude and thanks and stimulate a feeling of love and praise, also pertain directly to the healing provider, and that causes and intermediaries are a veil, that is, that sustenance, healing, and rain are particular to and restricted to the power of ever-living and self-subsistent one. To express this in accordance with the rules of grammar, maybe before getting into this, I think it's a good time to stop. Can we take it like these verses particularly? We understand the previous bundle of verses mention the Creator Allah as life-giving and also creating the death, so it's more focused on the life aspect. But on this page, the verses also focus on three things. Like one is the cure, so the other is rain, and also the sustenance. So sustenance, healing, or cure, and the rain. This three phenomena, maybe. So Salih, maybe we can start by you. How do you relate these three phenomenon with life, in relation to life?
The verses are really striking. Ustad definitely chose this in purpose, and they are very concise. These are, I guess, Mekki.
By the way, if I skip something, please just talk about something that I skipped to. It's
Okay, I'll do. So they are very concise verses and they are very striking. They are very to the point because as the name Ismi Hay is manifesting, the verses that explain Ismi Hay are also uh, like they reveal the explanations are without veil. The explanations are even without any intermediaries. Uh, and also we should not think life only the act of like giving literally life to some inanimate being, like for example the first heartbeat of a baby in the womb of his or her mother. This is a miracle, this is mu'jiza. However, giving of a cure is also another uh, act of Allah, which is in the same category, because it is not really uh, the only way Allah shows His Ismi High, because if in case Allah had not given a cure, then the obvious result would be death of that patient, right? So Allah is giving life upon life without first taking it. So healing of a patient or bestowing a cure to a sick is a different way of giving life. Or in, I guess again, Sunnah Hadith, also, Ustad is also talking about another way that Allah bestows life upon people, and it was, I guess, about revival of nations. You know, in the beginning of 1900, Muslim countries were having really difficult time, and in a treatise where Ustad is trying to find a remedy, like a Manavi remedy for this, he was making a similar uh, judgment. So he was making a similar, going through a similar thought process. Death of uh, Muslim nations, metaphorically speaking, is going to be, cured by the life that Allah is going to bestow. And now Muslim nations, alhamdulillah, started to stand stronger. So there, we should not confine or constrain our thinking the way we contemplate on this on solely uh, inanimate beings given life. So cures or remedies or rain, because lack of
So there's a social effect too. There's a social healing or social revival too.
exactly. For example, giving of light of iman to a heart is another way of giving life. Or there's a hadith, Rasulullah says, pray in your houses, recite Quran in your houses, so that your houses don't be like graveyards.
Interesting, very nice connection point actually.
Mhm.
So like we say belief actually, just affirms life or just blows life, belief, right?
And we can give many examples on this. So for example, spouses, when they love each other, when they appreciate each other, this is a miracle, and Allah is telling about this in the verse. So Allah makes your hearts closer. So this is a sign that Allah Allah exists, and He is the one who bestows the bond of love between the spouses, because it is almost impossible for for you and me to make someone else to love some other guy. So A and B, if they don't love each other, there's nothing we can do about this. So hearts, when they unite, when they love each other, another for example, male becomes a human, female becomes a full human. This is another way of ihya. I have read this in a psychology book. Before people marry, male is a male, female is a female, and when they marry, when they love each other, they both become a full human. So whatever part was missing when they were single, it was given life by Allah. So we can give multiple examples, further examples on this.
Yeah, perfect. I like the topic came to this point. So life can be commented on different aspects of life, let's say. Very nice examples. I remember this hadith, just publicizing greetings, right? Just say salam to everyone.
Yeah.
It's like igniting or giving a light in the heart so that everyone feels good,
Exactly, yeah.
These
Ustad
are
is, of course, approaching this matter at a very, high elevated point. So this is why the explanations are applicable to many, almost everything.
great. Colin Hocam, do you have a say on these points?
I can't improve on what Saleh has said. I mean, he hit on something so important there, talking about spousal love. We know that when we join in union with someone, we become whole. There's a tradition which says that we're only half and then we become whole. And I think we can take this back to the notion of the Jalali and the Jamali names. We know that the male is, generally speaking, is Jalal, and Jamal is inside that Jalal. So he is a man is, generally speaking, more reflective of Jalal than Jamal, and woman is more reflective of Jamal than Jalal. But obviously, woman has Jalal latently inside her character, and the man has Jamal latently inside his character. And when they meet, if they love each other and learn from each other, then the man will learn about Jamal and how to appreciate Jamal from his spouse, and she will learn how to appreciate Jalal from her spouse, and then you become complete. Jamal and the Jalal, they join, and your latent Jamal and her latent Jalal will be brought out. You will make tarbiyah of each other, and then you become whole. And there is that mystery there of the Jamali and the Jalali names meeting in a marriage, which is why marriage is, in a sense, always advised.
Oh, wonderful. Mehmet Su just wrote in the chat, life is something that everything is created from high by Allah without stopping. As an example, just as a metal table is made from high, everything we see, touch, smell, hear, and taste is created from high.
That's an interesting idea, isn't it?
Right. But when I look at a table, looks like it is inanimate, so it doesn't have life, anything. But the fact that it's the life is spread among anything.
I was going to ask a question about that, actually, because we said that the names which are without veils, they are not solid, or they are not touched by their opposites. So they don't come in degrees. We know that Jamal comes in degrees, apparent degrees. We see apparent ugliness, and same as light. Light comes in degrees. We see degrees of darkness, which allows us to see different degrees of light. But life doesn't come in degrees. Either things are living or they're not. You can't say something is more alive than something else, can you really?
And there is a discussion on viruses. Actually, viruses are treated as half living.
Really, either they're alive.
But these are just definitions. I mean,
I think also existence. You said also existence, Harun. You said existence is without a veil. Things either exist or they don't. You can't say something exists more than something else. So
interesting.
Going back to the metal table that Mehmet Su is talking about, it's very interesting. Metal table is apparently inanimate. We know that the angels that are bearing those commands of Allah, which make up the table, are conscious. Even if they're not self-conscious, they are conscious. So I think that the inanimate nature of the table, it's only apparently inanimate. In actual fact, And as Mehmet Su said, these are created from Hayy, whatever that means. And they get old and they dilapidate and they die in the end. You'll find these things will break down. So in actual fact, I don't think that anything is truly inanimate. I think all things are actually animate and all things are conscious.
So I think it was Sunuhat again. We are talking about Sunuhat today. Like Said Nursi tells us, if we look at a microbe, for instance, if we make the microbe as big as the earth, you know, it will be an earth in a way. And if we just make the scale of the earth smaller and smaller, it will be a microbe kind of thing. So when we say earth, you know, it has inanimate and live components, but as a whole, as you say over there, Nursi explains everything actually has some sort of stakes from the life. So every being, every existence has a part from the life. So to talk about system scale, actually every component of the system has a part. Like our bodies, I mean, I can say my finger actually does not, I mean, is not the source of the life, but my spirit is kind of source of the life. But even if I try to dismember, you know, my body, so where is the life? I mean, really? So my body is composed of inanimate and living parts. This is what I'm trying to say. But as a whole, definitely, I have a life. So it's hard to just take the table out of the scenario. So table is everywhere. Table is part of my life. So, and the fact of angels, as you mentioned, even makes it stronger that everywhere is the life, you know.
Absolutely. And I can understand why things have to appear animate or inanimate, because, you know, we've said things are known by their opposites. Actually, life doesn't have an opposite. So in actual fact, these are just appearances. So when the table appears, it's not moving, it's not changing, it appears, it's not breathing, it's not procreating, it's not doing all of those things which signify life. But because it's created from life, its inanimateness must be in appearance only. It has to be this pyramid of animate, inanimate, animal, vegetable, mineral, and then human beings, and then angels. There has to be a pyramid in order for us to be able to understand differentiation and difference. In actual fact, Mehmet Su is absolutely right. And you are absolutely right as well. From a systems point of view, if everything is part of a system and that system is animate, then God must also, in a sense, have a sort of, to use Ustad's hedging his bets there, have a sort of life.
By the way, Colin Hocam, so you made a very nice point about this the opposites and creation and their opposites. I was thinking about it and trying to find a quote from Risale directly, but I think I won't be able to do that. But what I remember was that there are two types of kemalat: hakiki kemalat, the true perfection, and there's also kemalat nisbiye, relative perfection. And Ustad is talking about this when he's explaining some waswasa that comes to mind about verses like Allahu khalaqa kulla shay'in ahsana. So there are verses where Allah is
Ahsana kullu shay'in halaka, right?
Ahsana kulla shay'in khalaqa, or Allah creates this better type of verses. So the verse seems like making a comparison. I don't know, Harun Hocam, did you remember this part?
Not particularly this relative perfection.
So the question was about such type of verses, and Ustad is interrupting the question and saying, whomever asked this has no knowledge about what true perfection and relative perfection is. And when he's saying that, for example, the giving of life or life itself is true perfection, and or giving giving of existence, bestowing existence, or being given existence, these are hakiki kemalat. However, I'm being taller than you, or someone being richer than the other, are nisbi kemalat. And
is it Hakaiki Nisbiye, maybe?
Hakaiki nisbiye might be true, huh? It was
Hakaiki Nisbiye.
Audience might help. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it's like relative reality.
But it was about kemalat.
Okay.
And when we can do, when the human, we as the humans can do certain things. For example, I can paint, I can give color to the canvas. So I'm being an arsh of Ismi Mulavin, right? Mulavin is the name, which is the giver of colors. So Allah has given me this ability to do certain things that are nothing but limited and very narrow manifestations of some of His names. But this is not the case for Ismi Hayy or Ismi Muhyi. So there is no being, there is no hadith, there is nothing that has been created by Allah but can bestow life to anything. So lack of degrees in life is, I guess, originating from this fact.
I would agree with that, definitely.
Yeah. So Allah has not given any of His creation to give life.
That's really interesting. I really
Yes,
like to think of it.
interesting. I remember purification of life, such as with sicknesses, life is purified, and maybe with a different manifestation of names, life gets more purified, if that's the meaning of it. But as you say, it's not leveling, but it's about purification and what it means to purify life.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but this is why Ustad is saying that, or in our discussions, we are saying that there's no opposite of life, or there's no degrees in life, because there is nothing, no one in the universe who can give a life, but give that life in a very, not that high quality way. I can draw a low quality paint, but nobody can give a life and make it not so quality or so encompassing. I guess this is one reason there is no, intermediate.
Yeah, very interesting, very intuitive. There are some nice entries. Let me just go over them. Fatih Atalay says, or gives an excerpt from Risale, 14th verse. Indeed, if numerous things take on the form of a collectivity, a collective personality comes into being. The Turkish is müteaddit eşya bir cemaat şekline girse bir şahsi manevi olacaktır. I think this is part of the discussion. We said everything is a collective being rather than individual. If such a collectivity fuses and becomes a unity, it will have a collective personality and a sort of spirit which will represent it, and an appointed angel who will perform its duty of glorification. Yeah, right to the point, right? Very, very nice excerpt.
There are lots of really interesting observations in the chat again today. If we can have them in the WhatsApp group afterward, it would be wonderful.
Yeah,
some stunning insights there.
Right. I just saved the chat to share.
Thank you.
Also, Mehmet Su mentions about Hakaiki Nisbiye. Angels ask the question about the creation of humankind to Allah based on their Hakaiki Nisbiye because they had a Nisbi Hakika. However, they didn't have Hakiki Hakikat, which is the answer that Allah told them. Errol Tahtakran just inserts realities that are dependent on time, space, circumstances, and various relationships among worldly phenomena, and therefore can be known through comparisons such as big, small, left, right, front, back, over, below. These do not have corporeal existence, but exist and are known in relation to other things.
Yeah, relational existence. Yeah, it's
Relational
like darkness. Darkness doesn't have an external existence. It has a relational existence, or it has an external reality. We can talk about it. You can even look out now. I'm looking out of my window and it's dark out there, but actually there is less light. What I'm seeing is just a lesser manifestation of light. And then with life, that doesn't apply because nothing intrudes into life to make life in degrees. So life is just pure, without veil. Degrees do not affect it. You can't say one thing is more living than something else, even though we talked about the apparent animateness or inanimateness of things. In actual fact, there are no degrees of life. Either everything is living or it's not. And there is no opposite. So we have to conclude that everything is living.
Yeah, this relativity itself is very interesting. And also again, just keeping on with Erol's explanations, for life is a light, a medicament like a potion blended from numerous attributes, just as the 7 colors are combined in light and various drugs are blended together in a medicament, so life is a reality made of numerous attributes. That's from 33rd word. Lastly, Mehmet Su inserts Hakaik in SPA changes based on our knowledge level and limits and experiences. Thank you for all these entries. We have 10 more minutes, so I think we can just keep on. The part that I didn't read here, actually, Ustad just elaborates on the fact that, Allah is the only giver of life, sustenance, and so on. And he gives an example from grammar. We can read that. To express this in accordance with the rules of grammar, the restrictive pronoun, for God, he is who. So restrictive pronoun is huwa razzaq. So restricting to who? To Allah. He is the only giver. So when we say he's the only sustainer, so that's the restrictive pronoun, who, in Arabic. And he is the only one that who alayhi, alethi, what was the original of that? I can't recall. Who alethi has been used. The true healer is the one who gives medicines their properties and creates their effects. Again, using the Arabic grammar rule, of course, with reference to the verses above, we just had read these translations, of course. But in the original verse, it's the restrictive pronoun, and we should understand this. He is the only giver, so intermediaries, everything is just past. So we can start the 4th sign, and I don't know if we are going to continue next week. If not, it's just we start this 4th sign, which is also wonderful to ponder upon. So the 4th sign is about, again, one of the 29 definitions. It's about 28th one in classification. It was explained concerning the 28th property of life that life looks to 6 pillars of belief. That's interesting. Now we are coming to the 6 pillars of belief and proves them. It points to their truth. So life, as we understand it here, just said that it is going to prove 6 pillars of belief. If we are talking about life, we should be convinced about 6 pillars of belief. I'm amazed with this relationship. What do you think, Colin Hocam, just bringing life to the 6 pillars of belief? I mean, how is this title? It looks very distant in some sense, but I see everywhere in Nursi's writings, he's combining life and belief with anything. And
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's when, for example, he talks about revelation, which is really preoccupying me these days, because, as you know, our project with Templeton is on revelation and communication. And he uses the divine names to say that revelation is demanded by things such as life. Life itself demands that there be revelation. Or he uses another aspect, he uses another divine name or another divine attribute to say that these things necessitate X, Y, or Z. Now he's saying actually that life itself has a connection with the pillars of belief. And of course it does, because, you're a systems man. You know these things. They're all interconnected. They're interconnected and they are a holistic whole. So, of course, life is going to have this intrinsic relationship, this inextricable link with all of the pillars of belief. And in Nursian parlance, it will prove them. Now, it's not an empirical proof, clearly. When Ustad talks about proofs, he means indication or inferences to the best explanation. They're not rational proofs in the way that the rationalists want to understand them, but they are very strong indications. And he's right. He will then go on to give us the meaning of life, and then he will connect it one by one to the 6 pillars. And he does this, as you said, he does it a lot. He talks about how certain names necessitate certain other names or certain phenomena. And
this is so
holistic worldview. Yeah.
This is so powerful, isn't it? So by this way, whenever we talk about life, immediately my heart connects. It's just goes to the climate of belief. Whenever we are living, whenever we are talking, whenever we are feeling, it just connects to immediately to the belief aspect. I think this is so powerful. You cannot find this in any preaching, in any speeches on Islam, Iman, whatsoever. You cannot.
No, you can't. Because this is everyone talks about Tawheed. Everyone talks about it. It doesn't come across in their teachings. This is a true Tawheedi worldview, because he's looking at Ahad and Wahid and he's knitting them together, stitching them together. Use again Nursian symbology. He's making an embroidery, of all of the names and all of these aspects, and he's making a whole vast tapestry where everything hangs with everything else and everything combines with everything else, everything completes and complements everything else. It is purely Nursian.
Oh, wonderful. Salih, do you want to take on?
So life looking to 6 pillars of belief?
Right. I mean, how do you feel about that? Isn't it weird at the beginning when you hear about it, like life just points to 6 pillars of belief? Or is it very straightforward for you?
It's not straightforward, definitely. And all of them are striking, but when Ustad was talking about the relation between life and Iman bil Qadar, that was really striking. And as a systems engineer, you should definitely understand this. You might have already understood this, but here is what I understood. This is going to be kind of technical, but when you design a thing, it might be a mechanical system or software system, it just follows certain rules. It has a trajectory, metaphorically speaking. It is going to approach to a state, stay there for a certain time, and it's going to continue pursuing its, it's going to continue within that process. For example, an engine, you ignite it, it first runs a motor, electric motor, and then the internal combustion engine takes on, and then it continues. So all of these have been formulated. And if you liken the life to the working of an engine, the same way as the steps, the phases that an engine would follow throughout its operations, the same way the giver of life has using in quotes, has thought about all of these states. So everything has been written somewhere in some way. And qadar is from ilmi ilahi, so it is of type knowledge. And life or living beings are so beautiful, so delicate, so wonderful machines that it is impossible for these machines to be not designed or thought about before they were given an external existence. So all of the equations that explain their evolution, their working, their operation has been considered before they were brought to existence. So when Ustad makes this connection, I was astonished. It was wonderful to hear that.
Yeah, so great. So you immediately got into the point of, life proves, iman bil qadar. Life proves, believing in destiny, divine destiny. So that's wonderful, especially these days, right? People are talking about information, data a lot. And we know that everything has information dimension. So even with different language, let's say scientific language, we are talking about divine destiny already. So
actually, so you made a very nice point. It's going to be slightly off topic, but related to this still. For example, nowadays, machine learning, deep learning, machines talking to you or they're reacting to you are all kind of among the miracles of civilization. But Ustad mentions this in Mujizat Anbiya. If you remember, in Mujizat Anbiya, Ustad is giving the example of Adam alayhi salam. And the miracle of Adam alayhi salam was that he was taught the names. Allam al-Adama asma'a kullaha.
right.
Remember this?
Right.
So this was the mu'jiza that was given to Adam alayhi salam.
Yeah,
And now that is happening. Now we teach a computer that apple is an apple, or a car is a car, or face is a face. They can even listen to you, understand what you mean, and then respond to you. So if we take this whole universe as a single living being, and the journey of Adam alayhi salam and the mu'jiza that was given to him, as well as the progress that now we are witnessing as 21st century people, that machines can learn as a result of technological advances. These are all kind of symptoms of life of this universe. And these have already been written in the book of Allah. Allah has given this as a mu'jiza to Adam alayhi salam. Ustad mentioned this in Mu'jizat Anbiya, and now that's happening. Actually, I was in the field. I have been in the field of robotics and machine learning, and I was waiting for this to happen. And the next thing that I'm waiting is the Ustad is saying that the same way as Allah has given Isa alayhi salam the mu'jiza to raise death, the same way, Ustad says, the same way the civilization or the technology is going to come to a point where they can give color of life to the death. Do you remember this?
Yes, definitely, absolutely.
I'm looking for this. I'm reading articles and people really.
Yeah, the medicine can come to a point to give life, to say, there's a dead person, so that person may just, of course, these are apparent things, different definitions, but the miracle of Prophet Isa alayhi salam definitely just brings humanity or civilization to that level.
Well, Ustad says color of life.
Color of life.
He's gonna give, technology is gonna give life. He says color of life. Ustad is very careful about his word choice. And I think there are a lot of nuances. But my point was that the same way as the life of a bird points to qadar pertaining to its life, all of these mu'jizat anbiya and the miracles that are given into the hands of, technologists, the scientists, are too a part of, are two pointers to qadar. But now we are not talking.
And also life, in your words, life is proving the existence of prophets. And also you mentioned the book. So we already talked about books, prophets, and the destiny.
Of course, yeah.
And angels to some extent. We already make, I think, a nice introduction to keep on, hopefully.
Yeah, sorry, I might have, brought the topic a little bit off from its track.
No, wonderful. I think it's very nice. I apologize for just closing late. Colin Hocam, do you want to say something before we close?
No, just thank you for moderating, and thanks to Saleh for his wonderful observations. I got a lot from his input, so alhamdulillah, thank you for that.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Thanks everyone. May Allah increase our knowledge, and hope to meet you next week. I'm not sure about the organization. Have a great week.
Very much.
Wassalam.
Assalamu alaikum.